I wrote it because when I was growing up, there was no such thing as the novel I've just written.
Yeah.
There was no positive role models in literature. Most gay characters in literature um, were dead by the end of the novel or had committed suicide by the end of the novel. And as a young man who I loved reading, I just loved reading, and
Mhm.
I would come across these characters and just think, wow, it's not really good to be, a homosexual, as they would
Yeah.
call it in these novels. And that was, that's what, you ended up learning from these books. And unfortunately, um, there wasn't an alternative.
Welcome to Story Power, a bi monthly podcast where my guests and I chat about stories and creativity in all different styles and formats. My name is Lucinda Sage-Midgorden, and my goal is to promote what Dale Carnegie stated in his famous book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. He said, instead of condemning people, let's try to understand them. Let's try to figure out why they do what they do. That's a lot more profitable and intriguing than criticism, and it breeds sympathy, tolerance, and kindness. To know all is to forgive all. It's my firm belief that the goal of most creative people is to try to understand themselves and others. That's what makes artwork of all kinds so compelling. But more than that, the personal stories of my guests promote understanding as well. Roger C. Schenck, a cognitive scientist, said, human beings are not ideally set up to understand logic. They are ideally set up to understand stories. It's my hope that Story Power will help us understand each other better by sharing the stories of my guests. Hello. Today is episode 121, and I'm talking to Lindsay Law, who has a lot of fun things to share with us. So, Lindsay, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me on.
Yes, I was looking at your profile, and oh my goodness, you've done so many creative things. And so, I want you to tell about your producing and your book. Is it already out?
Yes. Yes, it's available on Amazon.
Okay,
Um,
great. If you want to start, you could with that. That would be wonderful.
well, yes, okay. I fulfilled a lifelong dream of writing a novel,
Uh-huh.
um, and it's been self-published because that's the way things happen these days.
Mm-hmm.
It's self-published and it's available on Amazon. It's available in Kindle and hardcover and paperback, and it's all on. And the title of it is The Orphan from Shepherd's Keep.
I
It's
love the title.
good. And it's a love story, really. It involves the tale of three different men
Uh-huh.
over a period of 30 years,
Mm-hmm.
and how they fall in and out of love and learn about life and
Mm-hmm.
each other, and eventually they end up with the right people.
Oh,
But it
yeah.
doesn't start that way.
Well, isn't that how it usually goes anyway?
Well, one hopes, yes,
You have
if we're
to,
lucky. If we're lucky.
yeah, well, what I mean is you have to kind of test out the waters and find out what you like and
Ah,
what you don't like. And that,
yes, exactly right.
yeah,
Yes, these three men definitely go through testing the waters and finding sometimes not very welcoming, and then find their right place, which is good. We all
yeah,
hope to find our right place.
yes, that is true. So, you advocate LGBTQ plus, and is it that kind of a book?
Yes, those three men. It's about their various love stories they have over
Uh-huh.
their lives.
Mhm.
So yes, it's a series of gay relationships. Um, I wrote it because when I was growing up, there was no such thing as the novel I've just written.
Yeah.
There was no positive role models in literature. Most gay characters in literature um, were dead by the end of the novel or had committed suicide by the end of the novel. And as a young man who I loved reading, I just loved reading. And
Mm.
I would come across these characters and just think, wow, it's not really good to be, a homosexual, as they would
Yeah.
call it in these novels. And that was, that's what, you ended up learning from these books. And unfortunately, um, there wasn't an alternative. And I didn't know where to go or who to ask. I
Right.
mean, there were, of course, there was gay literature that
Hmm.
could have had a positive impact on me, but I didn't know how to find it. And it was
Right.
rare. And it's true of movies and television too, back in the era, back
Yeah.
30, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
So yes, I wrote this. It's not about being gay. I mean, meaning these are three men. They happen to be gay, but it's
Hmm.
not about them being, it's not a problem book, meaning,
Right.
oh, here, what will I do? Or how do I come out? Or this is no fun. It's not about that at all. These three men happen to be gay and we watch how they handle the world.
Hmm.
Um, and yes, I find it a very positive portrayal of the gay experience in our day and age.
Yeah. That sounds great. Yeah, because I grew up in a series of really small towns. And it wasn't until I got involved in the theater that I met gay people, and it was like, oh, yeah, okay. You know, but
Yes.
probably there were gay people in my schools. I just didn't know that because, you
Nor did
know,
they.
right. Yeah. I mean, it was the 60s and 70s, and, people didn't talk about it. They didn't talk about those things.
No,
So,
like you, I was very fortunate to have been brought up within the arts community. I was a
mhm,
stage manager in the theater initially, and so it was being gay was not so unusual, and I found other gay
right.
people, and then you would find older gay people who would kind of mentor you and teach you, and they looked out for the younger members of their
Right.
community. So I always
Yeah.
feel very grateful for that because I think if I had been in some other profession and hadn't been surrounded by a very positive series of friends and colleagues, I might have turned out to become a very different person.
Yes, really. Yes. Oh my goodness, stage managing is such a hard job. I've done that.
Yes,
It's really difficult. And looking back on it, I think, now how did I do that? Because there's so many balls to keep in the air. And
it's funny you say that. I often wonder that. And it's although later in life, as I would be interviewing people for jobs when I went into television and movies, if
Mhm.
I saw on someone's resume that they had been a stage manager, I
Oh,
immediately knew it was fine to hire them because
yeah.
they were prepared. They could do anything because stage
Yes.
managers can.
Yes, right.
That timer will stop in a minute if you're hearing in the background.
Oh, okay. I can't hear it.
Oh, good.
And
Okay.
it's all good anyway because I live next to the Mexican border, and sometimes the border patrol is flying over our house. So,
Uh-huh. Okay.
oh yeah, I haven't heard him for several days, but oh dear. So I just let the sounds go. When I first started podcasting, I took hours to edit it, and the episodes. And I don't do that anymore.
Uh-huh.
So I just edit out the things that aren't really important to the conversation. That's all.
Right.
Yeah.
You're
So
you're enjoying it?
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
next month is my 4th year anniversary.
Good for you.
Yeah, and I
Congratulations.
really love it so much that uh uh, I love what I do because I talk to lots of different creative people, musicians, artists, visual artists, a lot of authors, but filmmakers as well. And yeah, the one that's airing on this coming Wednesday is he's a certified financial planner, but he helps people with make sure they have enough money for their retirement.
Uh-huh.
And he is a fee only certified public planner. So or financial planner. So he doesn't sell anything. He's just
Right.
working for you. And so I thought, well, creative people need financial help too. So
Yes. Actually, more than most.
yeah, really. So that's why I asked him to be on the show. He's a really neat guy. So yeah, I love it. And I love it so much that My sister and I are we grew up analyzing movies with our family, and so I think we're gonna start a YouTube channel, Cinema Classics with the Sage Sisters.
Oh, very good. Very good.
Yeah, because we grew up watching all these classic movies and, Turner Classic Movies happens to be one of our favorite channels, although Barry and I can't get it right now because we have streaming unless we pay $100 a month. And so, but some of them still have so much relevance for today, and
Yes, absolutely.
that's kind of what we're going to do. So, yeah, you were immersed in plays and stories when you were working on American Playhouse. We probably watched some of the plays that you produced.
I hope so. That would be great.
And then, when you worked for Fox Searchlight, I'm sure we saw some of the movies too. So, what were some of the plays that you produced with American Playhouse?
Well, it was how long it was 82. It was about,
81 to 95 is what it
yeah,
says on your yeah.
it's a long period of time, and there were about 20 to 30 plays each year.
Wow.
So it was a lot. But they
Wow.
were they were it's called American Playhouse, so it focused on American work.
Yeah,
Probably every playwright you've ever heard of, we did a play of theirs,
yeah,
whether it's Arthur Miller or Tennessee Williams or
yeah.
all the various great authors, and then and lots of contemporary works, like for colored girls who have considered suicide when the rainbow is enough.
Mm.
I mean, things like lots
Yeah,
lots of plays.
yeah. I think I saw that one actually. I
Now,
remember s Yeah, I remember I saw it when I was getting my master's at Portland State, they did it.
uh-huh.
But I think I did see that, yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I
the
was
author and Sasaki Shange was in it herself. She actually played the lead. So
yeah.
and she never did that on the stage, but for television she did it.
Oh,
It was
wow, that's cool.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, so, did you have I'm sure you had a team of people searching out and picking the plays and
Yes, and there was no place else like it on the television dial, needless to say. So if
right.
you were a producer and wanted to get something, produced, you would bring it to American Playhouse quite often because it's not as if there was any competition.
Right, yeah.
Nobody else wanted to do any plays. But yes, we were there for that nice long period of time. It was kind of criminal that it ended, but it did end. And it hasn't really been replaced by anything on PBS.
I know, yeah. Is
And
it
they do foreign drama, they do masterpiece
right,
theater,
right,
but they don't bring anything specifically American.
right. Do they I guess American Masters is sort of the closest thing, although that's not just plays, that's
That's really documentaries.
yeah. So I was wondering though, were the plays that you produce sometimes like very brand new playwrights?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Some of them were new writers. It was a desire on all of our part who worked there to bring a wide variety of material to the dial and not
Mhm.
not be limited by what our own particular interests were,
Right.
but to realize that the PBS audience, we hoped would be wide and very discerning. It was also a very conscious effort on my part, since I was in the position to be able to choose these pieces,
Uh-huh.
to make sure that gay material was included, gay stories were included,
Yes.
and there was a lot of pushback for that. But nonetheless, we included a great many. As a matter of fact, I think the first feature film that really dealt with AIDS head on was ours, Longtime Companion, which is
Oh.
and others. There were, of course, others,
Uh-huh.
but I mean, but that
Uh-huh.
was it was a very conscious effort on our part. Actually, Longtime Companion we commissioned to make sure that there was material like that on
Right.
the television dial.
Can anybody access those anywhere?
It's tricky. Yes, for the most part, you don't find them all together though, I guess is what I mean. You can find
Oh,
you can find them on YouTube quite often.
uh-huh.
You can find them streaming. You know, YouTube's a funny little business. Um, People upload material onto YouTube that they don't necessarily own.
Right.
So that's not really legal. But unless the copyright holder complains to YouTube and says, take this down, you don't own it, they leave it up. And
Mm.
a lot of the material I produced is on YouTube because
Oh,
there's nobody around to suddenly say, take that down. So,
right. Yeah.
so yeah, a lot of it is available. And friends every now and then send me a link and say, guess what? Look here's this play that's still available. Also, there are lots of theater DVD series. Actually, one or two of the very first things I ever did back in 1971 and two and three, a Clifford Odets play, Paradise Lost,
Oh, right.
was is you can buy it on Amazon. So
Mm-hmm.
yes, you have to go searching for it, but yes,
Yeah.
some of them are available.
Yes, I bought because I used to teach a class called dramatic structure when I was still teaching college. And I bought a version of Taming of the Shrew that was produced in 70
San Francisco,
San
yes, San Francisco,
Francisco. Yeah.
SACT.
Yeah, but it
Yeah,
was like through some Broadway. I can't
yeah.
remember. I'll have to
The,
look it up. But
various that was done for Theater in America, which was a
a
series I also worked
theater,
on.
right.
And that was a series of regional theater productions brought to television.
Right.
Um that was a Tammy, that was a wonderful production actually.
I thought it
Mark
was
Mark Mark,
fantastic.
Mark Singer, I think was his name, was the lead.
Yes, Mark
Extremely
Singer.
handsome fellow, yeah.
Yeah, that I liked that one because my teaching partner is a theater professional, actually. And he took over all my classes when I retired. And he said that he studied a lot of Shakespeare. And
Ah,
he's also like adapted Shakespeare plays. And we done and he helped me with Measure for Measure. He's done Midsummer Night's Dream and set it in Haight Ashbury during the 60s,
yeah, yeah,
stuff
sure.
like that. And he said that version is probably the cleanest one because it's a problem play because of the way Petruchio treats
Great.
Catherine.
Yeah, yeah.
And he said there's a version, somebody wrote another version of it where his second wife treats him the way he treated Catherine. But the thing that one of my students said when we were discussing that version was he tames her, yes, but she tames him too.
Yeah, yeah,
And that's was evident just in the way the director had them look at each other and the body language and that kind of thing. So it was like he really did learn to appreciate her. But not every version is like that. It's,
right. Yeah.
they're a I tried to watch it. I didn't finish it. The one with Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor, and
Oh, right.
it's so combative and they're so,
Yeah.
you know,
They're so
beating
angry.
angry and beating on each other, and it's
Yeah,
like, I'm sorry, I can't watch that
yeah, yeah. I agree.
because I love this other version. Maybe that's
Yeah.
why. But yes, yeah. So, yeah, okay, so YouTube is one. If they put in American Playhouse, will they be able to find any of the videos on YouTube, or do they have to look up the specific play?
Quite often you have to look at a specific play. Uh,
Oh, where's a
but sometimes you can. I mean, the internet it connects the dots quite often correctly.
yes,
If you put in American Playhouse, conceivably 15 or 20 of them might come up, but not 180 of them.
right.
But you have to kind of know what you're looking for, to be honest.
Well, if you go to the well, but
Or
see that
Broadway Video, I think it's called, or something like that. There are
yes.
various commercial entities came along and bought up the rights to many of these PBS projects,
Oh,
and that's why they're still out there and still available. Um, I
yeah.
bought an old an old film of mine. I still haven't sat down to watch it. I bought an old film of mine based on a Lanford Wilson play, The Rhymers of Eldridge, was available
Oh,
online, and I thought, wow, okay. I haven't watched it yet, but it
yeah.
was one of the very first things I worked on as
Oh,
film.
I like Lanford Wilson.
Yeah, he was
Y-
good.
yeah. Uh, is he the one that wrote Fifth of July?
Yes, he is. Yes, I
And
did
the
that.
Mound? And did he write the Mound Builders? Who wrote the Mound
Yes, he
Builders?
did. You're doing very well. He
Oh,
wrote also.
yeah, I liked him.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Lanford Wilson, I forgot about him. I mean, yeah, I haven't really kept up with the new playwrights because, well, I don't know why. I just haven't. I wasn't in them. I wasn't in those plays.
Right.
Because
Right.
once I stopped acting and stage managing and, working in the theater, I was busy. Man, teaching takes up so much time. When I was
Yes.
teaching high school, so yeah, it just takes up so much time. Uh, so yeah, that's
I enjoyed teaching. I taught screenwriting at Yale for 5 or 6 years
oh
and really
fun.
and had a wonderful time. Um,
Yes, I took playwriting classes, but I wasn't very good at it.
uh-huh.
I didn't think. I mean, I'm writing my second novel now, but that's a different you. It's plays and movies are so constrained. You have to, you know, fit it all in and and it all has to be in the lines and in the body language and stuff.
Yes, yes.
I suppose if I really made myself do it, I could do it, but
If you really want to, you'll do it.
that's right. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, right. So what movies did you produce when you were at Fox Searchlight?
Um, with our most successful movie was the comedy The Full Monty.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
we also did the last movie I released there was Boys Don't Cry,
Oh
which Hilary
yeah.
Swank won an Academy Award for.
Yeah.
Waking Ned Divine, A
Oh,
Midsummer Night's Dream, lots of movies.
did you say after Waking Ned Divine?
A Midsummer Night's Dream with Kevin Kline
Oh
and
yes.
Michelle. Why am I going blank? She's married
Pfeiffer.
to David Kelly. Pfeiffer, thank you.
Yeah, Michelle Pfeiffer. Yeah,
Yeah,
and yeah, that is oh, I love that one.
that was
Yeah.
fun. We shot that in studios in Rome. So
How
that was
fun.
a very nice summer the year we did that.
Mhm. Yeah, that is a fun one. Yeah. So, I've seen all of those.
Good.
Yeah, Waking Ned Divine. Oh, I forgot about that one. That's a great
That
one.
was adorable. It's very funny. Yes, that was very pleasing. A pleasing, fun story.
Oh, yeah, that's great. So, now, how is a movie producer, or maybe they're the same, different than a Broadway producer? Because you've done that too, haven't you?
Yes. Um, well, a producer is, I mean, people quite often ask, well, they don't, people outside theater don't know what directors do and what producers do anyway.
Right. Yeah, they don't.
That
Yeah.
was confusing, but it's, a producer does everything.
Mhm.
A producer has to raise money usually for the project or
Yeah.
find a way to finance it. A producer hires the team that's going to then create the piece, whether you're hiring the director and the people around that
Yeah.
director, surrounding the director with the right people.
Uh-huh.
The producer has to find the material,
Mhm.
whether it's reading a book and deciding to buy the rights to it or commissioning somebody to write something,
Yeah.
and then keeping it on budget and getting it out to the public. So a
Yeah.
producer, it's a great job.
All the marketing and stuff too. Oh,
Yes,
gee.
exactly. Marketing and distribution. It's all
So you're sort of
it
over
isn't just,
all those teams. You're over all those teams.
yes, and it's not as glamorous as it can sound in the movie business. It's a lot of it's a lot of work.
Oh, I would think so.
Yep.
Yeah, one of my guests that I talked to recently used to be a Broadway producer.
Uh-huh.
She does a lot of things now, but she said, "I don't even want to talk about that because it's so hard to get the money." And I just don't, you know.
That kind of drove me right out of it. I produced two shows on Broadway, but frankly, you kind of needed to have a private source of income
Mhm.
to even be able to explore doing a play on Broadway.
Mhm.
Because it's years of doing workshops and various things like that, and you've got to pay for it all. You've got to hire actors to do the workshop and things like that. So it's for the most part, if you look at most Broadway producers, they all have their own private source of income. And then yes, they do. I don't mean they finance the productions. They write that because now the productions cost between 10 and $15 million to do a Broadway musical. So they find the money, but to get a piece of material to the point that you could actually decide to bring it to investors, to get it there is several years of you paying out a lot of money.
Oh, wow.
So I kind of after I did a musical of the Full Monty on Broadway
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
and had a wonderful time. But that was I thought I would continue with that, but it turns out I couldn't really because I didn't have a private income.
Yeah, right. Oh dear, really? Yeah. I mean, is it I didn't ask her this because she didn't want to talk about it. But do you think that the costs of putting a Broadway play up are just getting outrageously expensive
Yes.
like everything else?
Yes, but it doesn't even seem commensurate with everything else going up. I mean, Broadway tickets. I mean, I'm stunned that they're able to still sell tickets because they're a great deal of money.
Yeah.
Um, it's at a minimum $150 a ticket, and
Oh,
quite
gee.
often by the time you go on these ticket sites,
Yeah.
quite often it's 200, 250, $300.
Because you
Uh,
have to pay fees and stuff.
yes, and it's you end up thinking. I now need a guarantee that it'll be excellent. I'm not going to pay that kind of money and gamble on, is this any good? So then
Right.
you do wait for the reviews. I mean, when I was in the theater and living in New York,
Uh-huh.
you could go see a preview of a play,
Uh-huh.
a new play before you could go see it for $5, $10 a ticket. So it didn't matter if you didn't know anything about it. You would just
Well,
gamble $10 and maybe it'll be wonderful, maybe it'll be awful, and you'll leave at the intermission. You
yeah.
can't do that now. Now you only buy tickets to
Oh,
things that have been, that
yeah.
are kind of reviewed beautifully and say you must go see this.
So, I live in a I live between 2 fairly small cities in Southern Arizona, and at Sierra Vista, somebody came along and started a community theater. Now we had at the time, we also had a couple of other like, one is an improv company, and the other one, the guy writes his own plays, and that's how they stay afloat.
Uh-huh.
And they're fun, but they're not, like, great, you know?
Right.
But so whoever started this, community theater, they started it right before the pandemic, but it survived, and as I said, my friend Dave Dahl, who is a theater professional, is now part of the board, and there's another guy that is a theater professional, and they're running it, and it's going great guns now because they choose all different kinds of plays to do, from Shakespeare to these silly, melodramas, um,
Uh-huh.
and, so it's all different kinds of plays. They have, also they encourage playwriting, they have classes for children. I mean, so it seems to me that sometimes some of these regional theaters or community theaters are really what's gonna take over the
Yes, there is. I mean, the Tony Awards were last night, in
right.
which Broadway productions are honored. And I think I'm trying if I have the specific fact right. Every play that was nominated for Best Play of the Year
Uh-huh.
came from a nonprofit theater.
Ah.
And then fed them to Broadway in that
Yeah.
in that way. So that's actually a good sign. It's just that the it's all gotten out of whack at the cost of mounting a play.
Yeah.
And it's for the most part, it's unions and things for the most part that have made the costs just prohibitive.
Oh, yeah.
So it's it's an art form that's in that's in danger at the moment. It's an endangered
Mm.
form because there's very few profitable um, um, plays on Broadway. So things are closing within, 3, 4, 9 months, whereas they used to run for 2, 3 years. So
Mhm.
it's tricky, and the audience it's like all entertainment at the moment. The audience is changing dramatically because of the pandemic. Everyone suddenly learned what it was like to stay home. Everyone learned streaming was so easy. You didn't have to go anywhere. And,
Right.
and even when the pandemic ended, people continued many of those same habits. And so it's hard to getting people. I mean, I went to the movies maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago,
Mhm.
and it was me and one other couple were in the theater. The theater was just completely empty.
Yeah. Yeah, my sister said that too. When my mother died in February, and she lived with my youngest sister. She's the one that I'm going to do this
Uh-huh.
thing with. And we went up there in March because we still had to go through mom's stuff,
Right.
mostly photographs, which now they've also found another box of photographs to go through. So we were planning on driving up there after my husband retires in August anyway to finish up the photo
Uh-huh.
thing. And but we went to see Dune.
Ah,
And it was not, I mean, I expected it to be completely packed, but it wasn't.
yeah.
There were a fair amount of people in there, but it was still,
And that's a successful movie. That's a very
yeah.
successful. So yes,
Mhm. Yeah.
not packed.
Right, yeah. The second one, Dune
The
2.
second one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Uh,
like good time with that.
yeah, I mean, it was a great movie, but I was like, "Oh, this is interesting." But, I have never really loved going to big venues, because I'm highly sensitive and empathetic, and it's really difficult. It's like, because I pick up everybody's stuff.
Yep. Yep.
So, for me, staying home is just the best.
Safer.
It's the best, I love it. But, yeah, there have been times when we had season tickets to the Arizona Theater Company and, or the repertory company,
Yeah.
and, they have, Tucson and Phoenix, and they flip the plays.
Uh-huh.
And, that was always they always were full, but that was before the pandemic, so, uh and
Are they?
the Tucson theater's not super large, so but I think they're still going,
I,
yeah.
I was going to ask, are they still going? Yeah.
Yeah, I think they are. So, Dave and I have a student that auditioned for them not too long ago.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if he
Good.
got in. Yeah.
No,
Uh,
regional theater is a wonderful thing. And that was a conscious effort by the arts community to create the Ford Foundation in the 60s
mhm,
gave large grants to various cities, literally
mhm,
to create theater companies and
mhm.
hope they could become self-sufficient, and they all did, and they're all
Yeah.
still around. So it's a great thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Minneapolis and Chicago and
Yes,
LA. Yeah. Portland has a regional
yes,
theater too,
yes,
and
they do.
Seattle has more than one, I think.
Seattle Rep has, yeah, and yes, there's several up there.
Yeah, so we are lucky because I think that, we live Sierra Vista itself is about an hour and a half from Tucson. So if
Hmm.
people want theater, you got to drive all the way up
Yeah,
there. And so
yeah,
it's nice to have three possible places for entertainment in our area
good.
that you can like for us it's a half an hour
Right, right.
to and they took over a space in the dying mall, more than one space in the dying mall. So, that's great.
Yes,
Yeah.
malls are turning into very strange amalgams
Mhm.
of whatever commercial entities trying to fill that space because people aren't going to the mall. So schools are using them. Sometimes some of them become homeless shelters. They've
Mhm.
been reused as many different things these days.
Yeah, we saw some segment on it might have been CBS Sunday Morning about a mall that they turned it into an apartment building
Uh-huh. Wow.
with, with like, uh the main part of it, they had shops and things and
Yeah.
restaurants and things, but the rest of the mall was
Was
house
apart.
were
How
apartments.
funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I thought, "Oh, wow, that's pretty interesting." So, yeah. Um, I don't know why they built the mall here, except that Sierra Vista is the shopping community, place where people come to shop in our county because it's the
Right.
largest city in our county, and so, you know, they just come here to shop, and
Well,
that's
but also they often build things that people have no need for.
I know. Yes,
These
that's
things
true.
pop up and you suddenly think, well, did they figure out whether anyone wanted this in their
I know.
neighborhood? I don't think they did.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, so, do you have anything else that you wanna talk about any of your other creative projects? Are you still working on creative things?
Well, I mean, I'm continuing to write. Um,
Good.
uh, I write all the time. I write every day. So I'm working on a new book that I hope will be ready within the year.
Uh-huh.
Um, and then, in this world these days, publishing, the publishing houses, I mean, after the pandemic and after the, Black Lives Matter movements and various
Mhm.
things like that, the publishing industry suddenly was completely lost in terms of what should we be putting out there? Um,
Right.
and so the self-publishing business became a huge and thriving concern. Whereas, as opposed to having to find yourself a publisher who agrees who wants your book, and
Yes.
conceivably that publisher is in New York City only, and conceivably is only white people.
I
So
know.
it's not a great deal of diversity. And so
Mhm.
then self-publishing doesn't hold anyone back.
I know.
And
Yeah.
but it's also the other side of that coin is though that I mean I as a writer would love to just write. I don't want to necessarily be having to be out there selling. I don't want to have to do any of the things involved in being a self-published author.
Right.
Um, but I've hired people who this is what they do, and they tell me, okay, now you have to do this, now you have to do that. So I do it because
Yeah.
I want to find readers for the book.
Right. Yeah.
Uh,
Right.
so luckily, Amazon. I mean, it's weird, but Amazon, I think the percentage is 90% of all the books sold in the United States are sold via Amazon. Isn't that astonishing?
That is astonishing.
Yeah. So you've got to deal with them and be able to get your book on Amazon. And so that somebody who might be looking for a gay novel, that's all they need to type in, and mine will come up, and there'll be reviews there, and you can
Oh,
decide,
yeah.
you can judge whether you want to read it or not, and you can read what other people said about it. And
Mhm.
luckily, people have liked it enormously, so it's very highly rated on
Oh, that's
Amazon.
good.
So that's
Yeah.
helpful. Yeah, so it just keeps selling.
Yeah. Yeah, we did my first novel that way too. My husband's a graphic artist
Uh-huh.
and does newsletters and that. I mean, he is hired to do the country
Yeah.
club newsletter, but he also did them for the city where he works. He works for the city of Sierra Vista for 2 more weeks. Well, a week and a half. And and so yeah, he did my cover. He was able to do the maps that I needed. Um, and he was able to lay it out. He knew all of that and how to deal with Amazon, and
Yes.
we actually published it initially as an ebook through Smashwords, but
Hmm.
the print on demand book is at Amazon. And
Right.
so but he knew how to do all that, and I didn't have to worry about it or think about it or, struggle with it because I don't understand any of that.
It's
Uh,
tricky. Getting something on Amazon to sell is tricky. I mean, you need to know it. It
yeah.
is it is the world being well with the internet. I mean, I looked for a book designer to do the cover,
Mhm.
and I found somebody I liked a lot, and we meet online, and well, I agreed. I paid the money, and I found out that I'd hired a company in New Zealand.
Oh, wow.
No idea that's where they were.
Yeah.
And the proofreader lived somewhere in the Midwest.
Uh-huh.
The marketing people, one of them lives in Lisbon, and one
Oh,
lives in New
wow.
York. I mean, so it's just it's the world is shrinking in that regard. So
It definitely
it's
is.
kind of terrific.
Yeah. Well, and my husband has a LinkedIn account, and he says, man, they just have all kinds of things coming up all the time for graphic artists. So he's probably he'll do freelance like he does with his computer thing. He
Right.
helps people with their computer stuff. And but he'll probably get jobs,
Yes.
to do
Yes.
that kind of thing. Because it's for him, it's so easy. He's done it. Well, he's been a graphic artist ever since he graduated practically, which was in 1981
Uh-huh.
from college. So, he when the Mac came out with all those graphic apps, applications, his employer that he was working for at the time bought them and sent the people off to learn how to use those. And,
Yeah.
so
It can be
he's
mystifying.
yeah, but he knows it.
You're
So
lucky you got it right there in your house. You've got the
mhm.
expertise.
Yeah, I wish I had somebody who knew how to do the marketing. Although we do have a college friend who that's her job, and
Uh-huh.
she offered to help us. So now that when he's retired at the end of the month, yeah, we'll probably call on her for some help because the second one's coming out next year, probably sometime. I'm in the middle of revisions.
Oh, good. Good for
So
you.
yeah, yeah. So I have kind of too many balls in the air, and it looked like you have a lot of balls in the air as well.
Fewer than before. Fewer than before. I just try to focus on writing. Um,
Yeah.
um, and then I live in Connecticut, so I live in a very rural area. So
Mhm.
we're about to have a hideous heat spell though. So I'm madly having to water everything today so that they don't,
Yeah.
so that because it's going to be in the 90s for 4 days in a row, which we're not
Yeah.
accustomed to.
Right. Yeah. Barry said the other day, he says, well, it was only 90 today. And I just
Yeah,
started
yeah,
laughing because we
yeah.
live in Arizona, in this time of year, it's over 100, and we live in the mountains. So
Uh-huh.
for us, for it to be 100, it's that's hot.
That's
And,
hot.
and, you know, but I remember one time his mom and dad came to visit, and they were getting we were in the car, and they were getting the seat belt, and the metal on the seat belt
Ooh,
thing,
oh, yes.
oh, it's so hot. I said, it's only 85. And then I started laughing because when we lived in Portland, if it was 85, everybody was dying.
That was unheard of. Yes, yes.
So we've lived here almost 28 years, and we're kind of used to it now, but yeah, I really feel for those people who don't know what, and it's also humid, which makes it feel even hotter.
Uh-huh.
So for us it's dry, but yeah, it's wow. So stay cool. Stay cool.
Stay cool, exactly.
Yeah, we never
Yes.
go anywhere without water. Um
Yeah, yes.
so well, do you have anything else you want to say? It's been so much fun
No,
talking.
I would just urge your listeners to please go to Amazon and pick up a copy of The Orphan from Shepherd's Keep
Yes,
by Lindsay.
I'll go put it on my list. I'm kind of behind on reading the books because I have a lot of authors.
Yes,
So
yes.
I'm kind of behind on reading their books. But what I will do is put it up on Patreon because I started a collection of
Great.
books, books you might want to read. So
Excellent.
I'll put that up there.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much
Thank
for
you. Thank
talking
you
to me.
also. Absolutely. It's very pleasurable.
I hope you enjoyed the show. If you like what you heard, please share it with a friend and give us a rating and/or review on your favorite podcast app. It will help people find us. I invite you to join my Patreon community at patreon.com/storypower, all one word. Or if you like, you can subscribe to Story Power on Apple Podcasts. It's my aim to build a community where we discuss the stories we love and talk about what we learned from them. I offer extra audio content and story suggestions to my patrons on both platforms. Remember, As Philip Pullman said, after nourishment, shelter, and companionship, stories are the thing we need most in the world. Let's spread the story love. Until next time, this is Lucinda Sage-Midgorden. Thanks for listening.